Imagine two very plausible and realistic scenarios. In the first one, you're operating a publicly available flat range, and in between two very intense rounds of shooting, you drop your gun in a mosquito-infested puddle. While nervously wondering if this will still run, you accidentally smear it into the mud, and rub it around to get a nice sheen of filth all over the mechanical components. Now that you have a gun that's been caked in mud, do you know if it will continue to be reliable, or will it embarrass you in front of the homeless people recycling brass to fund their meth hobbies? Well, I'm here to test that. So anyway, I managed to fire 2 rounds before a malfunction, because mud had started to put enough friction on the slide rails to keep it from fully going to battery on each round. But only for the next 38 shots or so, because by the third magazine, all the dirt worked its way out of the important parts of my M18. Except for my safety lever, mud had actually packed that mechanism and caused it to stick in the fire position. Fortunately, I could fix that with a 20-ounce water bottle while a local tweaker intensely stared at me. Anyway, I was at work the next day and decided that this first scenario wasn't actually plausible enough, so I came up with another one. Imagine that you've been living and fighting in a muddy trench outside of Warsaw. No, the Missouri one, not Europe. Okay, let's just say that this takes place right outside of Versailles because there aren't any famous cities with that name. So, in this scenario, you've been in a trench and maybe had to do some crawling through the densely packed clay and rocks that make up the Ozarks. However, now that you're done low crawling, you have to reholster your SIG M18 in your freshly packed Blackhawk holster. Will the holster properly holster? Will the mud and debris make the gun fire on its own? Will this SIG start jamming again because I'm a filthy slob that doesn't clean his weapons? Quick disclaimer, before starting this, I pulled the bullets out of several 9mm rounds for testing. This means that if anything causes the firing pin to hit the primer, I would see and hear it go off. But I wouldn't recommend doing this at home because just like blanks, this still creates hot gases and pressure which can cause injury. So, the answers to those questions are no, no, and also no. That's because in this test, I used a type of clay that's very thick, sticky, and full of rocks, which I got from the side of a hill. Even when it's been unnaturally mixed with more water than it could possibly get from rain, it still sticks to itself more than my holster or gun. So I had to shovel it into the holster, and because it was so thick, I had to then pull it out by hand because I couldn't shove it out of the way with my pistol. Then it packed itself into the locking mechanism of my holster, and I had to just wash it off with a hose. As far as debris pulling on the trigger and causing my SIG M18 to go off, no, the trigger guard pushed mud away from the trigger, almost like it was some kind of trigger guard, guarding my trigger from all of the very terrible decisions that I made in life. And as far as jams or malfunctions go, this particular clay was still too thick to work its way into the gun, even after dropping it in it. So, in conclusion, clean and maintain your stuff. Also, thanks to the power of being too busy to edit this video thanks to a full-time job and part-time jobs worth of lawn and garden work, some new lore just dropped behind the whole SIG undocumented discharges controversy that's been plaguing the P320 platform for the last few years. An actual SIG spokesperson did an interview with Mac from Military Arms Channel and specifically blamed the 3 videotaped incidents from 2022 through early 2023 on Safariland's holsters because they have a human finger-sized gap between the material around the trigger guard and the gun. They also cited Safariland's new 2025 holster redesign as an acknowledgement of the problem, and after going into Safariland's website, yes, they did make a redesign for both Glock holsters and SIG holsters. My heavily biased opinion on this is that if gaps in the holster are the problem, then an extremely simple safety step would be to have a physical lever on your gun to make sure it doesn't fire unless you're ready to pull the trigger, which almost no police pistol has ever had in the history of modern policing, because as a group, they've been so adverse to guns with safeties that they will invent entire dumb categories of thought, like saying, you won't remember to flip the safety under stress, even though they use holsters that have multiple stages to their unlocking process. Or that Glock's trigger safety is a safety when in practice no government that's had the money to develop a new handgun has ever counted a lever physically located on the trigger as a safety, because the point of the safety is to keep the trigger from firing the gun.